Hare Krishna, welcome to this session with the Gaudiya treasures of Bengal. I am your servant Diptiman Gaurahari Das. So today we are going to discuss about the science of devotion and the meaning of life. So life is a wonderful opportunity to recognize our true potentials and utilize them to help ourselves and others perfect their existence. Growing accustomed to the daily course of life, it becomes increasingly difficult to decipher the meaning of life on one's own. However, life grows beautiful and the facts of life are interpreted very differently once the seeds of devotion are rooted in one's heart. There are three fundamental entities that exist: God, living beings or the Jiva, and the dead. God is a supremely conscious being. Anyone who has consciousness or the power of will is classified as living. The absence of consciousness, however, identifies the dead. Of all the living entities other than God, man is the most conscious. His ability of thinking, willing and feeling far surpasses the other living entities. The human form of life is the rarest opportunity for attaining complete spiritual perfection. দুর্লভ মানব জন্ম লোভিয়া সংসারে কৃষ্ণ না ভজিনু দুঃখ কহিব কাহারে. God is the creator of both the living and the dead. He is the supreme controller and complete in all respects. It is by his divine will that this creation survives and stays functional. God is not formless, however, and God possesses a distinct form too. But he is not entrapped in a body of dead matter like us. He cannot be perceived by our gross material senses. In truth, God possesses a form which is completely spiritual. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchid Ananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govindam Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna, who is also known as Govinda or the controller of our senses, is Ishvara, the Supreme Lord. He has a spiritual form of eternity, knowledge and bliss. He is the origin of all, but he has no origin. He is the prime cause of all causes. Hence the Supreme Lord cannot be perceived with our material senses or material instruments. But he reveals himself out of his own sweet will to those whose eyes are anointed with devotion. Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. The whole purpose of our existence is to render selfless loving service unto the Supreme Lord, recognizing him to be our ever well-wisher and our eternal object of love. One who realizes this attains supreme spiritual perfection. The spiritual world, Vaikuntha, is situated far beyond the realm of matter. It is eternal, blissful, spiritual, and free from faults of material contamination. It cannot be observed with material eyes or perceived by our subtle minds. The spiritual world is inconceivable, ochinto, to us imperfect embodied beings. It is over here in the spiritual world that the Supreme Lord resides along with his eternal associates. The material world that we live in is Dukhalayam Ashashvatam. It is full of miseries and temporary. So we are tormented here with the problems of birth, disease, old age and death. The soul is subjected to a lot of miseries in the mother's womb, where it is forced to lie in a constrained position and endure worm bites for 10 long months. After taking birth, one has to tirelessly endeavor for food, shelter, security, failing to do which one can be plunged into further difficulties. Natural disasters, diseases, and disputes with others cause added pain to the living entity. In short, there is nothing called unadulterated happiness in this material world. The short gap of time when one is devoid of material miseries is falsely claimed to be happiness by the illusioned living entity. Out of 8.4 million species of life, a human being is the most conscious and is perfectly equipped to attain complete spiritual realization. Hence, one should not waste the precious human form of life and instead utilize it for God realization. And it should be done from a very early age. Death is unpredictable but inevitable and can approach us at any moment. The state of consciousness one quits his or her body during death decides the destination of the concerned soul. The actions performed during one's lifetime have the greatest impact on one's consciousness. Depending upon one's state of consciousness at the time of death, one can take birth in the abode of ghosts or spirits. One can take birth to suffer in hell. One can be united with one's ancestors, sent to the heavens to enjoy celestial pleasures, or instead be completely relieved of any material designations and sent back home to the spiritual world where one can unite with the Supreme Lord. It all depends on the consciousness of the individual at the time of death. Unless one is freed from material designations, one continues to suffer in this material world, transmigrating from one body to the next. All embodied living entities, starting from demigods enjoying in heavens to the small ants of this world, are subject to birth, disease, old age and death. Fear, hope, sense of duty, and natural attraction towards the Supreme Lord are the most noticeable factors initially driving one to serve God. But as one practices devotion, the above mentioned factors of fear, hope and duty gradually fade away and make way for the spontaneous pure love of God. Devotional life is a reservoir of unadulterated bliss, and one who tastes it can no longer be content with any material pleasures or circumstances. প্রেমেরও স্বভাব করে চিত্ততনু শোভা, কৃষ্ণেরও চরণ প্রাপ্তি উপাযায় লোভা. Spontaneous love or raga is the ideal way of rendering devotional service unto God. Awakening of this raga, this spontaneous relationship with God, is the success of one's life. This relationship between the Supreme Lord and the living entity is an eternal truth, forgetting which the living entity subjects himself or herself to countless material miseries. Devotion unto God that is driven by fear, hope or duty cannot be considered pure. Devotees practicing them are inferior to those who render devotional service unto God driven by raga or the spontaneous love. However, as discussed before, hope, fear and duty make way for spontaneous love as one gradually evolves in his or her devotional life. As long as the principal goal is to serve and render devotion unto the Supreme Lord, the secondary differences between people and their ways of worship do not matter. Hence, one should be very careful in not criticizing others who may possess a different style of worshipping the same Supreme Lord. No two personalities are the same. Hence, culture, actions, customs, manners, characteristics, and even lifestyles of people vary in different parts of the world. Hence, although faith and worship of God is a universal practice, it is followed differently by different people. In order to bloom, love requires a lover and an object of love. Without them, love holds no identity. Likewise, the living entity is the lover and God is the ultimate object of his eternal love. Once this love blossoms and turns spontaneous, the Supreme Lord is completely revealed unto the living entity. As this divine love grows, the impersonal conception of God is replaced with a personal one. The living entity then realizes that God is a person possessing a set of qualities and fully capable of reciprocating personally. As this divine love evolves further, awe and reverence for the all-powerful and all-opulent Supreme Lord gives way to an intense attraction, an attachment for his sweetness, his magnanimity, and his unlimited other qualities. Such a devotee now no longer fears the Lord or worships him for any material benedictions. Instead, he worships the Supreme Lord, for he cannot help but associate with his object of eternal love. Such a devotee can control his mind, transcend the material nature, and even his material desires. Such a perfect devotee rejoices in boundless spiritual bliss and is not shaken even amidst the greatest of the difficulties. This is certainly actual independence, freedom from all miseries arising out of material contact. Such a person, such a devotee, identifies everything as part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and tries to engage them in the service of the Supreme Lord. The ancient Vedic scriptures proclaim that chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord is the only practical and effective means of cultivating spiritual realization or devotion in this present day and age. Hare Nama, Hare Nama, Hare Namaiva Kevalam, Kalau Nastiva 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 Gatiranyatha. Nothing else is as powerful. Love of the Supreme Lord is not something artificial that can be obtained from an external source. Love of God is eternally existing within the hearts of all living entities. When the heart is purified by the process of regular hearing and chanting the holy names, glories of the Supreme Lord, this eternal love awakens and reveals itself once again. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Shaddha Kabu Nohe Shravanadi Shuddha Chitte Koroe Uday. Thank you very much for attending this session. Hope you enjoyed it. Hare Krishna.